The conversation in this podcast is not medical advice, therapeutic guidance, or a substitute for professional care. If something you hear stirs discomfort, memory, or emotion that feels too heavy to hold alone, please reach out to a licensed therapist, healthcare provider, or someone trained to support you. You deserve real care, real support, and a safe place to land. Welcome to the Lori Clarke Show. I'm your host, Lori Clarke. We are here to explore what it means to live and to learn through what life brings. The moments that shape us, the questions that stay, and the conversations that remind us that we are not alone. Each Monday, I sit down with guests, experts, storytellers, and those who are sharing their real life experiences to talk about what it really means to move through our experiences with curiosity, awareness, and compassion. Today, I am joined by Dr. LaNysha Adams, author of Me Power, The Ability to Realize and Exude One's Authentic Self to Live a Happy, Productive, and Fulfilling Life. We talk about what true empowerment really means beyond external validation and circumstances, and how to reconnect with the energy that has always been there and to the energy of who we have always been. If you've ever felt disconnected from your own voice, this episode is definitely an invitation to remember that your story and your choices and your presence hold power, the kind of power that begins in you. You don't want to miss this one. Welcome to the Lori Clarke Show. Anything I say right now will start the show. So I don't know if you want to jump in or not, but I got so much to ask you.
Let's go.
Okay. So it's so interesting to me because I read your book and I was like, where were you when I was 17? Totally insecure, overwhelmed by my life's problems, feeling totally and unbelievably powerless. I needed your voice back then. And so when I read Me Power, I just went, oh. And then, of course, in chapter 8, when you say, you quote what the quote of my whole show, which this season is, can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? It just changed. It just changed it all for me. And I just appreciate your listening to the universe, to the spirit, to God. And I appreciate your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on. It's so wonderful to talk to you directly.
Would you share with us a little bit about who you are and what got you here and what created Me Power?
Yeah. So I always like to start with this idea that so much of who we are goes beyond the roles that we play.
Yeah.
So I spend my days like 9 to 5 and pretty much all day helping people feel more grounded and connected and confident. And that applies to my work at the community college. I'm director of student wellness here in this role. And that
Yeah.
also applies to me as a friend and in community and as a mom of 2 boys. And beyond the title and like kind of like what drives me to help folks, I'm a foodie. I love traveling. I'm a fan of people. And I really believe in this idea of agency, so much so that that informs my lens for this work. I think there's so many positions, cards, hands that were dealt that we have no control over whatsoever. And somehow we still have to navigate through life somehow. Somehow we have to if we're going to survive. So how do we do that? And without agency, we cannot. And there's a lot to go into that and unpack, but I really feel like understanding that lens is important to understanding me. And I also think that as a mom of 2 boys under the age of 8, I'm challenged to practice what I preach every single day. Like
Yeah.
I can't just say these things without a regular practice of what I'm
Well,
preaching.
because they see through it, right? Like I have 4 kids and they're 26, 25, 22, almost 23 right in a couple months and then 16. They can smell when you are not authentic. They're just and they don't care.
They're coming for you. They're like sharks in the water, man.
They are coming for you. And because there's no mercy when your child corrects you, right?
Yep,
They don't care.
totally.
I love them dearly.
They have so much to teach us, but I also
But
think, yeah, as we navigate through life, we have to contend with the change of all of these roles we
yeah,
play and positions we occupy in life,
yeah,
and how do we find ourselves in the thick of it. And that's really what
yeah.
motivates my work.
Well, and I think too, just to back up on the kids thing, when you have kids, then you're faced with who you are, is what I found. And that's really, I didn't think about me power or doing the things that I do until I had children. And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to do the things that I did or that were taught to me. I can't, because that created this deficiency or this belief that I'm not enough, that I don't have any power. So I'm not doing that. I must go another route. What does that look like for me? And that's how my whole life started.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's
1000.
a very interesting approach. It's a very interesting approach. So when you talk about me power, you frame it with some empowerment. True empowerment is something that we can bring into our life. So for those who are listening right now and they tagged into this conversation because they are wanting to find the power in themselves, but lots of what we've been shown in our life has been powerlessness. In your book, you had a story. You shared about this moment of powerlessness for yourself. Would you care to share that about where you walk in the office and you are thinking that this is where you're supposed to be and the other person had other ideas?
Yeah, for sure. That talk about game changer moments.
Well,
I,
yeah,
I think in terms of disempowerment, right? Like there's so many, like I said, so many points in life where we don't have control over the outcome. We're on this ascent. We're trying to get to this place, and then somebody slams the door in our face, and we're just left standing there.
yeah.
So the story that I talk about in the book is when my mom was a teen mom. She had me when she was 16, and she and my dad weren't together. So she was a single mom. The village helped to raise me. And
Mhm.
so uneducated, like no one in my family went to college. The first in my family graduate from college and get a PhD. I think that's
Congratulations.
important for context because
Yeah.
I don't come from like a lineage of people who are like, yeah, go do this advanced degree thing. So I got a scholarship right out of high school through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It was a 10-year scholarship. And one of the outcomes of it for a lot of us was to get the highest degree in our field. And for me, in applied linguistics, that was a PhD because my dream and my goal was to become a tenured professor.
Mm,
And it's funny, like coming from a family or coming from a background where I don't even know what that is outside of what I read in books. It's funny to
right.
think about it now. But when I was in grad school and I was a master's student, I was applying to PhD programs. And when I didn't get in to one of the programs that I was
Mm,
aiming for, really thought I would get in there. And I go into this professor's office, and I'm thinking, because I had written to her and said, I really want to learn how I didn't meet the mark, and I'd love to meet with you and learn how. And it took a lot for me to write to her to ask
sure.
for that advice. And I thought it was amazing that she wrote back and said, I'm willing to meet with you. I'd love to talk to you. I go into her office, and she proceeds to cut me down like 1,000 notches and pretty much tells me that I'm not a fit for the program, not because of my work, but because of who I am, like skin color, background, intellectual capacity for people like me. And that really disrupted my sense of who I was and what I wanted out of my life. And a lot of her research, what was fascinating, a lot of her research was in communities of color in New York, and it was just really interesting to kind of have someone with that legacy of work. Like her body of work was all
Yeah.
about helping people in communities of color achieve certain things so they could advance their life. And so for her to tell me that, I didn't fit the mold of what she wanted from a graduate student, I think that was really, that was really tough for my
Yeah.
sense of self at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how did you get out of that? It must have created a narrative. It must have created a cycle. When you know who you are and then you get cut down like that, which has happened to me in my lifetime, sometimes it knocks you off course for your life. Like, we're not knowing the power of our words. As much as words are so powerful to create life, they can kill the spirit so quickly. How did you reroute or readjust, or did you build this me power from that experience that you had?
I think in the moment I didn't. I
Mhm.
really kind of gave up.
Right.
What happened was I really took that to heart in an internalized way. And I stayed
Okay.
there for a couple of years because I felt like she's right. Like, who am I? Like, look where I come from. The script, it's ironic. Like, someone says it to you external, but the script is already running in the mind, right? We have
Absolutely.
these negative automatic thoughts, these ants, these automatic negative thoughts running in our heads because we are machines and we're primed. We're biologically primed for reflection, but most of the time, these thoughts are just kind of running on autopilot, and we have to identify, like, what is the script. So for me, the script was, for me to even get to that point of being in graduate school is such
Yeah.
a big deal. And I thought, this person is telling me that I don't fit. And, like, look at my life, look at my history, look at my entire family. You know what I'm saying? Like, this hit me so deep to the core that I was like, fine, I'm just gonna have to give in to that script, because it's not just in my head anymore. It's like,
It's out there.
look at it. And then not only is it out there, but is stopping me. So I have to just kind of focus on what I'm doing. And what I started focusing on, which was ironic, was I took a job as a research director for this national nonprofit. I graduated, I got my master's, and then I just worked like a dog.
Yeah.
And then I decided that, that work is what I was going to showcase and prove and, like, keep pushing
Yeah.
through, because that hard work, that overwork is what is work. That's what I had to prove to myself. That's what I had to prove to this other person. That's what I have to do in order to, like, keep inching myself out of the conditions in which I was born, and also the conditions in which my family still remain. And over time, I think after 2 years, one of my friends said to me, you got into another institution and you just said, I can't do it because this one place rejected you. Part of being an academic, is constant rejection. I think that's true in life in general, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're
Yeah. Yeah.
rejected in so many different ways, but you have to accept that. Like, it's not against you. It's just like, it's not a good fit. And a friend talked to me about, like, what could I imagine my life like if I were to pursue this again? Because I didn't even want to try again.
No.
Um, and I started kind of, like, inching my way out, but I started from that place of a dream. Like, what could my life be like? And what would where would an academic environment really support me? What do I want for that? Not, is it the best for the pedigree, right? Is it the Ivy Leagues? Is it this? Is it that? What do I, LaNysha, want? And that really
Yeah.
required me to take a look at who I was being in the world at that time, and then who I wanted to be in life. And I started writing, journaling from that place, kind of dreaming,
Yeah.
imagining,
That's
but
right.
it was inch by inch.
I really resonate with what you're saying, and I don't know if I can't remember if this is in the book or not. So this might step outside of our lines here, but I'd love to know if you've thought about this, and then if you haven't, well, then we don't have to talk about it. But there's something about legacy burdens here too, where like, I know for me, the narrative, I don't have the narrative when I think back to who I was before the world told me who I should be. I don't think I had a narrative that said, oh, your mother didn't do it, your father didn't do it, your grandparents didn't do it, no one did it in your family. You're going to be the only one. Like, I never knew that. We don't know that when we come in. What's told to us, it's when it's told to us, or when we start looking at the world, or, at that young age, and notice little things that indicate something that is their struggle, but then we take it on as it's our collective family struggle, or we're all poor, or we never get this. Oh, that's not for us. That's for them. So these, it's against you is where it begins to shape. And so then when you have someone come across your desk and go, yeah, whatever you're dreaming, no, the immediate legacy, the lineal burden of that goes, it wasn't us. And who are you, LaNysha, to think that you can have that? Who are you, Lori, to think that you're going to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this burden is almost like, it's funny. It's like because it's told to us, it's transmitted like as if it's a tape. The script runs on a tape. And remember when we used to, these tapes, we had to rewind, and the whole thing, like whether it was on a cassette or a VHS, it would wobble. It would be like, and
I love it.
It had dust, and it would be like just a mess. It was unstable, inconvenient. It would cut out, like if too much sun got on it, it was like, it would just warp. And I think like that's very symbolic for this kind of idea, right? Like it functions like a tape that runs, that's a little bit outdated, but these tapes, as they're told to us, transmitted to us like this, it's almost like it gets into a sense of who we are as individuals. And that's also what happened to me. Like that story kind of showcases that, right? Like the underlying belief was that I have to fight to do something that had never been done. And if I didn't do that, then my worth as a human was not there.
Me too.
And I was looking so much externally to the accomplishments to kind of piece me whole. And it just doesn't work. I mean,
because it exhausts you, and then you're exhausted to break out of something. I had a conversation with somebody the other day in my family, and they said, will we fight? And I was like, no. And they questioned me. No, we're fighters. And I said, no, that can be a limitation. What if I just sat back? What if I said, no, I've built my entire life exhausting myself and working for something. What if I now sit? Like, can you remember, Lori Clarke, who you were before exhaustion said you had to become it? Like, we can apply things inside of this. And, yes, we work hard. That's a very important part of being an entrepreneur for me, being a doctor for you, being an academic for you, teaching people. This is really important, but to the point of exhaustion where you're fighting and fighting. No. And this is what I think you're saying is redefining this external or internal power. Internal power isn't fighting. Yeah, I'm loving you are in such agreement with me.
I am. I know we should be snappy because it's amazing. It's like, it's funny because like, okay, so take, like, to personalize a little more, like when I've been on my own since I was 17. And I started college. I was taking 18 units. That's more than what was required for full time. I worked 3 part-time jobs, and I
Right.
commuted an hour to school. And not only was my life busy, it was chaotic. And I swear to you, I honestly believed that that was the way life worked,
Me
not
too.
theoretically, but because that's what I saw. Because
Yep.
the one thing about poverty is that these people who are poor and uneducated, that's where I come from, they
That's right.
are hard workers. Like they work like dogs. So I thought that's how it is. And looking back, that wasn't ambition. That's not like that conditioning is survival mode. And it's
I
just
know.
straight up that, like research shows us, right? Like over 70% of adults who grow up in these unpredictable or high stress environments normalize chaos. So
I
much
know.
so that our nervous system adapts to constant pressure. That's why some somatic practices are so revolutionary, because when things quiet down, stillness feels unsafe. So can you imagine you're doing like deep breathing in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts? That is like the disruption of chaos. And that can become so unfamiliar as a practice that we don't do it and we don't question it, because why would we question what we're used to?
Well, and I was raised in it. I had one guest years ago on the show say, "We're marinated in it." If you're marinated in it, think about eating something with a marinade. It is the whole thing. You drop tofu or chicken or whatever your protein flavor is into a sauce, and you expect the marinade to soak in.
Hmm.
And sometimes you got to do it overnight. Sometimes you got to do it longer. And when we talk about this, this is the key. It's marinated. Like poverty was marinated into my bones, into my cells, and trying to move out of poverty, out of that poverty mindset
Hmm.
is next to, well, it is possible. It feels like it is almost impossible because the avenues in your mind, you don't even know. It's like whack-a-mole. It comes up, all of a sudden this idea comes up or this belief comes up or this thing comes up, and you just feel for some reason that your best effort will never get you where you're supposed to be. Because in my life, chaos was normal. And when I finally settled down 5 years ago, so I was 45. I'm like, okay, so 5 years ago, I settle in. And then I realized that my nervous system was just on, like it was on. And I couldn't deep breathe because I felt like I was running for my life. When you're in survivor mode, you cannot deep breathe. You can't really even rest well, and people are plagued with insomnia and digestion problems and health problems because we normalized chaos. And when it's and I have a sense it's because for me and my experience, and you can say what's yours, but I was looking outside forces, and and feeling like I had to, my value was carrying others' burdens, making myself feel important was giving all of my power to someone else.
Hmm. And it's this reacting mode instead of
Yeah.
choosing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think this idea like of interrupting that cycle,
Yeah.
for me, you asked me how did I get from that place.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really like, and it's true for anybody in that place because we're all there at some point.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like noticing what feels familiar compared to what feels healthy. Like whatever feels familiar, it might be too much of like this is what I'm used to
Mm.
versus this is what I need. And usually this is what I'm used to and this is what I need are so, there's a disjuncture there. And I
Yeah.
think pausing to ask ourselves this question, like what is it that I need
Yeah.
versus what is it that I'm used to, requires us to check in. And this idea of like, is this my choice moving towards me? Is this what I'm calling in? Or am I moving away from myself and I'm looking all around for something to carry that isn't mine to carry? And I'm fundamental that those tiny pauses really help us break that pattern. And therefore,
Mhm.
these tapes, that are transmitted to us, these scripts that are transmitted to us on tapes,
Yes.
lose their power, when we start choosing from a place of self, what's inside,
Yep.
instead of what's to protect us, what's for survival mode. What do we hear? What do we see? What do we know in the external world? I think that's it's a distinction that I feel like is so crucial and so important to underscore.
How do we make new decisions in relationships? How do we make new decisions with the flow of our power?
Yeah, I think it starts with this idea that, I'm making an argument that me power is operationalize an activity. So it's not a theory. We have to take action. And me power is really who we are, knowing that first and at that time. And then what are actions we can take in 5 key areas? Embrace your barriers. It's a very counterintuitive idea. Like this is an obstacle in my way. How do I move around it? How do I prove to that person they told me I can't, I want to? The second is focus on your strengths. The third is speak for your life. The fourth is choose your guides. And the last is ritualize your reflection. And I think this as a practice really shifts our thinking from that stance of reacting to what happens to us, of thinking that what the energy we need, we're looking for validation external, when we really have to start on the inside. So we become these active agents of change we want to see. And these things that I just named, these 5, I'm calling them 5 principles of practice of me power, are how we do that. We can go into it more, but I feel like we really have to start from that place of, who am I beyond the roles that I play? Who am I beyond the scripts that are running in the background? If we don't start there, we just kind of jump into the next. LaNysha says this is the framework, and I'm going to go through like a task list. Check 1, check 2, check 3. But no, like, who are you? What are you about? What does that mean for you at this time in life?
Yeah, and you would have reflections and things for people to do that can help them navigate and journey into this who am I?
Yes.
Because, I've been trying to figure out who I am since I was 17 years old, and now I'm 50. And I'm like,
Lori, listen, 5 years, who you were 5 years ago is not who you are right now. I was in that book when that professor slammed that door in my face is not the same person I am right now. And so one thing that people could do that's really exciting and that isn't so philosophically and heavy, it's like I'm a philosopher at heart, but it isn't so philosophical. Like, this is a practice that I think is exciting for people. And I've done it in workshops and people say it's so fun. So think about, let's do 1, because I usually do it in 10, but let's start with 1 defining moment in your life, just 1, right?
Okay.
And think about that moment. And then you might want to think, people might come up with like, the birth of my kid, or when I graduated, or pick a moment. And usually we have a picture, like a physical picture that someone took of us or of that experience that we can go back to and find. So then you take that picture, right? You think about that moment, you take that picture, and then you start analyzing it, reflecting. How did I feel at the time? You look at the picture, you start asking yourself, how did I feel at that time? What were my goals? How have they evolved? In what ways have I changed? In what ways have I stayed the same? Who are the people in this photo? Where was it? What was going on? So you start asking all these questions. And what's interesting is you can just sit with those thoughts with the photo, or you can think about, you can journal, or you can share it with someone. And I think about all the examples I have to kind of like highlight this, but I think that as a practice is very good. And if you take more than just 1 moment and you do it like up to 10 for a span of your life, right? Over the last 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
That gives you a sense of like, wow, I'm different in these ways. Or, I'm really the same. I'm the same girl, because in every photo of every celebration and defining moment, there was food present there. And like, wow, you know, when I went through this as an exercise, I looked at all these photos and I was like, what is it about that? What is that about me in relation to that? Like, why is that so important to me? I think this is a very key exercise. I call it ritualizing your reflection, but you can do it
Yeah.
really for any span of time. But it's so fun to kind of go back and look
Yeah.
when AI isn't prompting you, because on your phones, you know, if you have an iPhone or even a
Right.
Google, whatever, it pops up, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like a reminder to maybe take a step to do that in a very, like, a way that you choose, right, for looking at your life.
Well, I love that. I'm always up for these kinds of trips down memory lane to help me remember, because when you are sitting and looking at outside world, you don't remember these things. You're driven by the survival and the instinct to achieve and to go, 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 and you're stuck in that exhaustion. And so you can't reflect because you don't have that stillness and or the capacity to just to breathe for a second. I think that's really important when we talk about um how our power can be brought back into our source. And your example that we go back to about this professor saying, you know, no, this isn't the way, and really cutting your legs out from you, you you had to have a moment where you found yourself again, where you remembered upon reflection, you said, no, 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 no. This is who I am. And I'm going to remember this now.
That's absolutely right. I um I like to think in numbers a lot too sometimes.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
you know, it's like in the 525,600 minutes that make up a year, we think over 2 million thoughts. Like, that's on average. Some of us think way more
Wow.
than that because we ruminate and it just goes. But
Yeah.
imagine, right? Like, if we were so intentional about some of those thoughts and really identifying which ones are really dominant for us, that we
Mm,
own, that we choose. I, I think, like, the script of, like, I have to work so hard, and that
mm.
shows my worth as a human being.
Yep.
I'm so happy I identified it, and I was able to shift. I was able to say that served me well for the things I needed to accomplish. By the time I was 30, I accomplished, I think, all the life goals except for one that I identified. Isn't that crazy?
Amazing.
Because,
That's
like,
amazing.
because I thought I would die early, and I also just ran myself ragged based on
You
that
thought
belief.
you thought you would die early?
Yeah, based on where I come from, like, yeah, people die all the time. Somebody got ran over by a car walking on the sidewalk. I was like 10 years old. 2 years later, someone else died at a young age. Like,
Right.
everyone's like dying where I come from for
Yeah.
various reasons. Violence, sometimes accidental. And that, like, that really shapes your thinking, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, you might not live, you know. And then so I was running on this idea, that idea of like, that might be true for me. And also,
Mm.
in the time that I have left, I have to really hustle. I have to really accomplish. And
Right.
then, you know, it's like, is that serving me anymore? Is
Yeah.
that, is that, wait a minute, is that what I'm about?
Right.
Or is that just the conditioning of how I think about life and my life?
Hmm. Okay, so how does conditioning then work into this? We talked about that where we give our power to conditioning. Can you kind of define conditioning a little bit and then give us a problem and give us a solution? How do you recommend moving through conditioning?
Yeah. So when I say conditioning, I'm really talking about things that are told to us that we
Yeah.
have to do.
Yep.
And because of the belief that we are operating from,
Yep.
right? So this idea, and it is a practice. Not only do we believe it, but we do it.
Mm.
We move from that place. And it's I say conditioning because it's deep rooted, right? When we
Yeah.
use conditioner versus shampoo, we getting at something different in our hair. So when we're conditioned, it's almost like that
Yeah.
marinating, the seasoning seeps in, it really gets at the roots, it really activates us in a different way. And it's almost like it's almost like an autopilot kind of way of being, because we have the belief, we don't question it, and we just move from there.
That's right.
That's
That's
conditioning.
right.
So
Yeah.
if we're conditioned, right? If I'm conditioned to believe that overwork is the value that I have to be in the world because one day I'm going to die early, guess what? I will make that happen. And like it can unfold. It can be
Yeah.
very true. So I think the way that we disrupt that is how we've been talking this whole time. I don't think it's almost like the conditioning, how we are conditioned, that in and of itself is an external process. Part of
Yes.
our livelihood is figuring out what are those conditions that in which we were raised, in which we were brought up, the environments that we were kind of born in. It's like we just are like learning how to live, and then we have to question that if it's working for us or if it's not working for us. And if it's not working for us, we really have to ask ourselves, we have to take a step back to really pause to disrupt it. Because guess what? If we don't do that, life will do it for us. And I have
Well,
I have a lot
that
to say.
pausing piece, oh, I love the pausing piece.
I had a friend who would always say that. When you're looking for an answer, there's the answer.
Well, conditioning for me was always checking if you're right, because you don't trust yourself.
Hmm.
We're not smart. We don't come from a family of smart people, so you better check your answers. Right? Like, it's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're plugging back in to something that is an internal source that is going to provide us with the answer that is etched in confidence, even if we don't feel confident, because you can look back and find moments in your life where you're confident. You can look back and find moments in your life where you've trusted yourself.
Mm-hmm. All of us. And there's so many proofs for that.
Oh,
So many. I mean, it's fascinating how we focus on how that's not true. But when we pause, we can challenge ourselves to dig deep, look inside, and look back at like what we have done that has really worked for us to do this, to get out of a certain place in order to move energetically to another place.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. You bring about you have a story in the book about the woman Cheryl.
Cheryl
And
Rich, can you believe that?
oh man, I love that. Would you, I think this is a good moment to tell that story because it fits here, I
Yeah,
think.
Cheryl Rich, um, one of the things she shared with me was when she was coming up, her grandmother would always tell her, you're smart, you're beautiful, and you're so powerful, you're so strong. Look at that. Look at yourself
Yeah.
in the mirror, and like would put her in front of a mirror to
Yeah.
see that. And after I think 5 or 6 years of this, something happened where she didn't see her grandmother frequently, so she didn't get that message. Even though the message was from an external source, her grandmother was trying to teach her, this young girl, to do
Yeah.
it herself in the mirror every day.
That's right.
But she didn't do that. So then she started going on this journey looking external for validation. And unfortunately, she got into a situation when she was young, and she had a baby when she was 12 years old, which is so young and so wild. And then people started in her community started talking about her and labeling her. You're these negative words. I don't even want to repeat them.
No. Yeah.
Right. So they started labeling her in these negative ways, and then that led to this downward spiral she describes, and I talk about it in the book. It was like this downward spiral where she really just believed what she heard because people were saying it with such authority, and she maybe had it on the inside, but the script now is a tape playing out so loudly. And so she just lived like this. And I think this person did this for a good 40 years.
Wow.
And when she was telling me about her journey to change, to disrupt that,
Yeah.
she talked about unlearning, the practice of unlearning what those labels were and identifying to learn what are the scripts that were driving her behavior.
Wow.
So much of her life wasn't based in choice because she just felt like she had to do what she had to do. And what she had to do was all the negative things that people were saying. And it really had a hold on her. So once she started that process, unlearning, learning, relearning, she was able to find herself in there. And like I said, it took her a 40-year journey to do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to say about that as a practice, as a process. But I think one of the main takeaways is that how other people label us and how we receive that passively, and maybe we don't question it, can be really problematic for our life, as this story highlights.
Well, and I would say that if there's a listener out there who is young and you as Dr. LaNysha is telling this story about Cheryl and she's recounting it, and you're thinking about yourself and the labels and the way in which you can't, you shouldn't, you won't, you'll never, you're not enough. You don't have what it takes. There is a moment here where this is a life moment of unlearning. There is reclamation here for you. There is a way out of chronic chaos. There is a way out of chronic external searching. There is a way that you can interrupt the cycle, interrupt your own conversation with yourself. It's their words. And this is what you're saying about Cheryl. She understood that it was other people's words. It wasn't hers. And she lived out the voice of other people. And it is time for us to begin to live our voices and reclaim our own way of what we are, who we are, and how we are going to show up.
Beautifully stated. Whew. I felt that. I felt it.
I felt it too, because I've done it. and you can get tired of being strong too. And there's moments where I got to just take a break, And why I love this, like understanding that embracing our barriers is really a chance to motivate ourselves, to refocus our energy. When you can embrace the barrier, it's then that you realize that the barrier isn't yours. It's not yours. Cheryl saw it. I see it. You saw it. We are disturbing the narrative. And guess what? It isn't ours.
It's not ours to carry. It's funny, as you're talking about remembering, I just had this idea that it's really returning. It's a practice too. It's a practice of returning to an inner knowing that you can access at any time. For everyone, that's universal. You already carry what you need. And we spend so much time looking for it outside it's almost like a mirage. Like we can't see it. We cannot see. We're forgetting, but there's like a barrier or a block. And almost like life, as we go through life, we're kind of breaking down the piece by piece to then be able to see and to return as a practice of remembering.
And I would add to that, as I learned through somatic and the work that I do on myself, trying to reclaim and unlearn, the way that I embraced it, the way that I feel now, I've taught my own children is you go to that memory So whether it comes up on your phone, whether you have a picture of it, or whether it comes into your mind and you take who you are right now with the clothes you're wearing, the jewelry you got on, and you wrap your arms around that person, who you were, you hold them and you let them know, I'm embracing you. I am loving you with the love that I have right now. That is one of the aspects of pausing that can help loosen the barrier of that shame or that unworthiness or the chronicness of those tapes that are playing in your mind, and that can disrupt the cycle.
It does disrupt the cycle.
As you were saying, like I remember the Walkmans, you remember how you could just rewind it and those tapes. And I remember my tapes. I wore my tapes out to the point where they would break. You ever broke your tape?
Yep.
Let's break some tapes here.
Let's break some tapes. And you cannot, wait, listen, when you break those tapes, you can't go back and listen to it. There's no repair. I never found one repair practice that could do it. You have to buy a new tape. You have to go, right. You have to make a new tape. No, you have to make a new tape.
I tried to splice it together. I was like, no, this is my favorite tape. And I just would try to, you can't do it. When you break a tape,
that's so good.
You do not return to that tape.
No, you got to get a whole new tape. That's amazing. As a metaphor, that's like the best. Let's break some tapes, Lori. Let's break some tapes.
We don't need to burn our bras. We need to break some tape.
Yes.
Oh, I'll break some bras too while I'm at it. I'm loath to find one that doesn't cut my lymph drainage right off.
That's amazing.
So what, to show us how or teach us how to know who we are? How do we know? How do we get to know this?
I think, I feel like I'm just thinking about all the ways that we think in terms of like what we do as who we are. What we do is who we are. And I think that's an adult practice. If we watch children, it's not like that. Because their interest, what they do is so chaotic. Like I have a 5 and a 7-year-old.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, like, you just have to watch children. When they're 3, what do? They go through so many mood changes and like their interests, right? What they want, all the snacks that they eat. They need to take naps. I mean, they're doing all this crazy stuff, expending all this energy, but that's not who they are. And when they're able to vocalize who they are, what they're about, I ask a 5-year-old, I go to the park all the time. I ask, my favorite question, I ask kids, who are you? They say, oh, I'm this. I'm this boy, and I love Blippi. And I'm like, okay, great. Okay. Who else are you? What else are you about? Well, this morning I did this, and right now I'm at the park, and I'm talking to you, but I want to go play on this slide. That's who I am. And it's so beautiful to observe like children like this, because they're like, this is the state at which I'm vibing and operating and showcasing to the world. And that's who you are. But after some time, we get so busy with this conditioning, and we just get into this habit. So we think, okay, who I am is the job I have. It's the degree it's the credentials I'm about.
Yep.
And like, that's it. And then when something disrupts that part of who we think we are, we have these crises. Your mom, your kids are not small anymore. I think you named 2 kids, 26, 24, all of this. So if who you are, Lori, was those kids' mom, when they're adults, then who are you? Do you have a crisis?
I'm in trouble.
I mean, I think we really, to answer the question more blankly, like for us to start it's almost like as adults now, we have to remember that who we are is not what we do.
No.
It's who we are is like a someone who loves, is a someone who, I don't know, who enjoys something. Like, like maybe instead of asking people, what do you do? Ask them, what are you about? Who are you? Like right now, who are you showcasing to the world? Who are you
Yes.
cosplaying as in the world right now?
Yes.
Because it's not fixed and it changes. And I think if we are constantly conditioned to think about roles and titles and credentials as part of our identity, as the core part of our identities, we are in major trouble. So we have to identify that first and then start picking kind of a way at it, because we're so conditioned to just operate from that place. I feel like that's the fundamental starting point for us. It seems so basic, but
It
actually
does.
it's not. It's
No.
it's an involved practice. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who are you? What would you say to that question, Lori? I'm curious because I don't know.
I would say now, I am confident and I am strong and I'm capable. And I see myself now as a woman who does not care about what people think. I care about sharing what I have learned in my life, and limitation is not a part of my way of being any longer. Who I am is a conqueror.
Wow.
That's who I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Imagine if we introduced ourselves like that. I don't even know. I don't know what that would do in the world.
I gave myself goosies. When I look back on those tapes, I see the moments in my life where I was looking for other people to affirm me, where I was walking by, behind other people going, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. I was a young mother. So I was, okay, I'm going to give my life to my children. And then thankfully, I woke up about 5 years before my last kid went to kindergarten and said, I need to figure out something so that I don't feel, like I've lost all of my identity. I've also moved through sexual assault. I've moved through toxic family. I've moved through some massive, massive barriers. And every time I met a barrier, there was one thing that I noticed. That is the thread.
What?
I was the barrier. My limitation was the barrier. I'm standing in my own way, my own belief, my own idea, my own vision of scarcity and lack was my barrier. And it was me in my adult self that had to wrap my arms around that woman or that little girl and say, I'm going to save you. And so I did. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what conquering is. And breaking the tape. I can't find it now. And that's how you know you've moved your barrier. Because when I think about other people being my barrier, that's weird. They can put their words on me or their shame on me or their experience on me, but when I look back at it, it's me. I'm standing there with the labels, with the shame, with the guilt, and I'm standing there going, what did I do? It's part of the tension of how we live when we wonder, like when you're feeling tension about this, and especially you listeners, if you go back and you do the reflection example that Dr. LaNysha gave, and you go back, what's the commonality? You're in the photo. You're in the memory. It's alchemizing the barrier And the way to understand that is to remember it's not yours. It's not yours.
I think the mic drops right there.
Now I should get off my soapbox.
I think the mic drops right there.
What do you want to say to people as we wrap this up? What is in your heart and in your right now? How would you describe yourself? Who are you, Dr. LaNysha, and how would you encourage others to follow suit?
Yeah, I am, like I said, I'm a foodie. I love traveling. I'm someone who loves people. And also, I believe in the power of agency more than anything else I believe in my life. It's amazing. Like I'm standing 10 toes down on that. And I would encourage folks when they're thinking about who they are beyond the titles to really kind of unpack like features of themselves that people wouldn't know about you. Like you said, you're confident, and then you listed all these things about who you are, like how you show up, and then you said, I'm a conqueror. Like that is an amazing label that you get to choose, and you define what that is.
Yeah.
I also want to share that, you know, as we're talking about me power, and I really am using that language because I think it's really important to crystallize it from inside out. But empowerment, you know, isn't a one-time event. It's really a journey. And I would love to encourage, you know, our listeners to begin from that place and really start with what we're strong and good at, like our strengths can be our focus for as we're, even when we're feeling like everything's stacked against us, we even from that place, we all have strengths. And I think remembering that we're not alone, and even if we don't have someone physically with us, somebody in our family, in our community, in from our past that we know, that we feel connected to, can receive a call from us, or an email or a text, and that connection can help sustain us even when we're in those really low points. I think that's also really important to say.
Oh, that's great to say. Where can we find this book?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold. Go to the local libraries, ask them for it to buy it. They'll buy it, and then other people can read it. And then I also am giving everybody a free audiobook version in the show notes. I'll send you. I think I sent you a link for that.
Thank you.
And I love connecting with folks. I love hearing how this framework really informs people's individual practices. And I'm always learning so much about how to activate my me power and how to showcase it in the world even more.
Well, you have activated my me power. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I feel it. I feel it. You me powered up.
I had to buy a new tape. That's what I had to do.
That's amazing.
And I burnt a bra or two.
Buy a new tape and burn some bras. Bet.
That's right. That's what we got. That's the hook for social media. Buy a new tape and burn your bra. And then find your me power.
You'll find it through that process.
Oh, you sure will. You sure will. You are a delight. Thank you so much for the work. It's beautiful to see the work that you've done, and the writing that it just comes through. It's so effortless. And I thank you for your life experiences and sharing today. It's very impactful. I just give you and send you as many blessings as humanly possible, because you are a light, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you.